Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about how to approach respiratory distress in a newborn. I'm Dr. Karbya Pandey, Associate Professor at the Department of Pediatrics from SLIMS. So, what is the most common reason when infant admitted to the NICU? It's a respiratory distress. Around 30 to 40% of newborn will be admitted due to the respiratory distress. The incidence varies depends upon the gestational age. Term baby 15%, late preterm babies 29%, less than 34 weeks almost 60%. So, what is the definition of respiratory distress? So, when you call the newborn as a respiratory distress, there is a criteria for to define respiratory distress. They have 3 points. Among 3 points, we have any of 2. Newborn has respiratory rate more than 60 per minute. Subcostal or intercostal contraction, expiratory grunting or groaning. Among 3, which newborn should have 2 minimum, then only we can call it as a respiratory distress. So, what are the other signs indicate the respiratory distress? Nasal flaring, suprasternal contraction, decreased air entry and aspiration. So these are the other signs indicate respiratory distress. How to define respiratory distress in the newborn? We have 2 of following. One is tachypnea, that is respiratory rate more than 60 per minute in a newborn, grunting, retraction, intracostal, subcostal retraction. So this is a normal nostril, this is flared nostrils, nasal flaring. So there are some other signs. It shows severe degree of respiratory distress, like gasping, choking, or stridor. It's sign of upper airway obstructions. Apnea or bradycardia, poor perfusion, and cyanosis. These are the advanced or severe degree of respiratory distress sign in newborn. We should act immediately in this case. So we are moving into causes. There are a variety of causes will be there. We are going to see common causes. The frequency depends upon gestation age. Is a very important one. Okay. So based on this gestation, what is the most common cause of respiratory distress in preterm baby? So everybody knows respiratory distress syndrome. What are the other name for respiratory distress syndrome? Hyaline membrane disease. Late preterm and term baby, what is the most common cause of respiratory distress? Is TTN, transient tachypnea of newborn. Overall, the commonest cause will be TTN. The commonest cause for respiratory distress in late preterm and term will be TTN. Commonest cause for preterm baby respiratory distress will be hyaline membrane disease. So, again, based on the airway involvement, they are classifying different causes. So now, upper airway obstruction due to final atresia, nasal stenosis, laryngeal atresia stenosis, vascular ring, tracheobronchial stenosis, cleft palate. This is the cleft lip and palate. This is the cleft palate. Then pulmonary causes, most common, non-common causes. Most common we already seen transient acne of newborn, respiratory distress syndrome, early onset sepsis, pneumonia, meconium aspiration syndrome. These are the most common cause of pulmonary cause of distress in the newborn. Okay, so mainly we are concentrating these four. Uncommon causes are so many things: pneumothorax, pneumomedial syndrome, pulmonary hemorrhage, hypoplasia, pulmonary agenesis, pulmonary edema, and congenital lobar emphysema. Cardiac causes. Not only pulmonary cause will cause respiratory distress in the newborn. Some cardiac causes also will cause respiratory distress in newborn, like cyanotic congenital heart disease, acyanotic congenital heart disease, congestive cardiac failure, arrhythmias, pneumopericardium, pericardial effusion. And thoracic causes. Due to the chest wall deformity, or there is a mass will cause respiratory distress. And metabolic disorder, hypoglycemia, infant of diabetic mother, IEM, infant of metabolism, and diaphragmatic cause, diaphragmatic hernia. So congenital diaphragmatic hernia and diaphragmatic paralysis. Diaphragmatic hernia, which procedure contraindicated at the time of the delivery? Bag and mask ventilation will be contraindicated. Directly we should debate. Other infectious causes, sepsis, pneumonia, hematological causes, anemia and polycythemia, miscellaneous causes, asphyxia, acidosis. These are the common causes for respiratory distress in the newborn. Pulmonary causes very, very common. Among the pulmonary causes, transient tachypnea of newborn, RDS, respiratory distress syndrome, meconium aspiration syndrome, and sepsis. These are the commonest cause for respiratory distress in newborn. Now, we are moving into how to assess the respiratory distress. When they are posted as a medical officer or posted in a casualty, suddenly there is a child rush, the newborn rush with respiratory distress. How we are going to assess or how we are going to handle it? The first initial assessment to identify the life-threatening conditions, like inadequate or obstructed airway, child having gasping, choking, or stridor, or circulatory collapse like bradycardia, hypotension, poor perfusion. If you observe these are the signs, then you should act immediately to give oxygen administration or bag and mask ventilation intubation. So immediately we should carry bag and mask ventilation or intubation or oxygen administration. So these are the life-threatening signs the newborn person with respiratory distress. Then again, if there is no life-threatening signs, then history, history and clinical examination give the important clues for our diagnosis. The detailed history is very, very important to find out the cause of the respiratory distress. So, the coming slide, we are going to see what are the history should ask, and if the history gives what are the clues for our diagnosis in the respiratory distress. Antenatal history, intranatal, and postnatal history. So, in antenatal history, we should ask maternal history of diabetic mellitus. If maternal history of diabetic mellitus, the newborn more prone to develop TDM, respiratory distress syndrome, hypoglycemia, and large one gestational age. Then IUGR, metabolic causes like polycythemia, hyperglycemia. If mother had a history of asthma, the newborn more prone to develop TTM. If mother had a fever, UTI, the newborn more prone to develop sepsis. If mother had a polyhydramnios, tracheo is a big fistula, and neuromuscular disorder common in the particular. So these are the antenatal steroid status, very, very important. Respiratory distress. Previous brings with the respiratory distress, we can suspect surfactant protein B deficiency. Now we are moving to prenatal history. PROM, intravenous fever, chorioamnitis, again sepsis. Meconium sign Lyca, then meconium aspiration syndrome, asphyxia, fetal distress, asphyxia, cesarean section without labor, the child more prone to develop pancreatitis of newborn, RDS, persistent pulmonary hypertension. Breech presentation, instrument delivery, more prone to develop trauma, Erb's palsy due to diaphragmatic nerve palsy. So they are more prone to develop trauma followed by Erb's palsy with phrenic nerve palsy. The postnatal, very, very important. The postnatal is very, very important. Onset of respiratory distress. Immediately at birth, onset is immediately after birth, then we should think of onset tachypnea of newborn, respiratory distress syndrome, pneumothorax, meconium aspiration syndrome, congenital malformation. Onset after hours or days later after birth, then we should think of sepsis or congenital heart disease. So these are the LGA baby. So instrumental deliveries. So once we finished detailed history, then we have moved to general examination. Why general examination is very, very important? Again, we identify the clue of etiology. Based on the general examination, we identify the clue of etiology. Like we should look for dysmorphic feature, anomalies, features of IUGR, single umbilical arteries, scaphoid abdomen, rolling of saliva. So here the picture demonstrates sickle trophism, bird-headed face with prominent nose. So we should look for dysmorphic features. Then we are moving into the systemic examination, maybe the inspection. So we should observe whether the particular newborn breathing comfortably or if any other signs of respiratory distress. We should note it down: respiratory rate, symmetry of chest wall, synchrony with abdominal wall movement, and we also know the color of the neonate. Pink is cyanosis. Cyanosis is a very, very advanced or severe degree of respiratory distress. Then we should use pulse oximetry to determine SpO2 and note down shape of the chest wall. Why is the shape of chest wall very, very important? During the meconium aspiration syndrome, the child should develop hyperinflation. So we should look for the shape of the chest. Rounded thorax will increase the AP diameter of hyperinflation. Respiratory rate, we should count full 1 minute. We should count 60 seconds. What we'll do usually, we'll count 15 seconds and we can multiply it to 4. No. In newborn, we should count full 1 minute. What is the normal respiratory rate in the newborn? 40 to 60. So when the respiratory rate more than 60, defined as a tachypnea. Less than 60 plus severe retraction or epic episodes of severe respiratory system impacting respiratory failure. So we are going to see some terminologies in newborn respiratory distress approach, like tachypnea, grunting, stridor, retraction. So we are going to see coming slides. So tachypnea, we already talked about that. We should count full 1 minute. More than 60, the neonate defined as a tachypnea. because the respiratory rate of normal respiratory rate varies, depends upon the age group. The newborn, normal will be 40 to 60. The newborn respiratory rate more than 60 is called as a tachypnea. Why the newborn have tachypnea when child presented with respiratory distress? Because they will breathe faster to improve their breath ventilation and gas exchange. If newborn presented with metabolic acidosis, they have deep and sinking breaths. It's called as postmortem breathing. So I'm going to play particular video so you people have to tell what sound that is. So look at the child. Did you hear the sound? So what sound that one? Grunting. Grunting is expiratory noise, low or mid-pitched, due to the partial closure of the glottis. Most commonly occurs during expiration. Why this grunting is developing? Right? Due to the some connection problem. Due to some internet problem, we have some. Okay, so by this unit will increase the intrinsic PWP to maintain air FRC. This is more useful in return with ODS. Once child started to improving, this will disappear. And also, when child is worsening due to the exhaustion, it will disappear. So we should assess this grunting along with SpO2, color, activity of the newborn. So retraction or chest retraction. So indicate accessory muscle respiration, suprasternal or supraclavicular retraction system of air obstruction, intercostal retraction system of parenchymal lung problem. So we are going to see that. So subcostal retractions. So again, it was in subcostal retraction. So suprasternal retraction, intercostal retraction, substernal retraction, and subcostal retractions. So same. Nasal flaring, subcostal and intercostal retraction, sternal retraction. Then other important noise, the stridor, high-pitched musical monophonic audible breath sound. It's a harsh crowning sound produced due to the narrowing of the upper airway at the level of the larynx or extrathoracic trachea. Often, stridor will be inspiratory, or rather, different types will be there: inspiratory, biphasic, and expiratory. Depends upon the site of the involvement. The stridor will be inspiratory or biphasic or expiratory. If the lesion above the vocal cord, usually inspiratory stridor. At glottis or subglottis, biphasic stridor will be present. Lower trachea, say expiratory stridor. So, what are the common causes for stridor in the newborn? Laryngomalacia. Other causes will be vocal cord paralysis, laryngeal or subcostal narrowing due to the edema or bypass stenosis. So, here I will play one more video. So, stridor. Okay. So next we are moving into oxygen saturation. We have assessed both right upper limb and left lower. So pre-ductal and post-ductal. If different more than 5 to 10, we should think of persistent pulmonary hypertension. Then systemic examination, we already seen inspection symmetry of chest wall movements. We should see auscultation. We should look for symmetry of the breath sound and presence of any other adventitious sound like grunting, wheezing, stridor, other sounds. So these are the chest wall deformities. Pectus excavatum, pectus carinatum. Pectus carinatum also called as a PGF chest. Then again, the scoring of the severity of the respiratory distress is very, very important. Why this scoring is very, very important? Because based on this, we can shift the child to NIC. Depends upon severity of respiratory distress. And one more important thing will be objective assessment. And we can use this one for monitoring purpose also. How the scoring level is improving or worsening. So we can take an early call. So early management always give good output. So silver band score and one more score will be down score. So they have 5 features. Scores start with 0, 1, 2. If everything's normal, they will give a score 0. And the severe one, they will give a score 2. They will give what are the 5 they are using? Upper chest movement, lower chest retraction, sigmoid retraction, nasal flaring, and grunting. So if higher the score, more severe the respiratory distress. More than 7 is indicate respiratory failure. Same, down score. Now take 5. Cyanosis, retraction, grunting, respiratory rate, errant. If normal, they are giving 0. Severe, they are giving 2. So based on the Downey score, this Downey we are commonly using in our department. Score 0 to 3 is mild, 4 to 6 is moderate, 7 to 10 severe. So more than 4 or more clinical respiratory distress, 7 or more, so impending respiratory failure. Then we should monitor pulse rate, BP, and CFT to identify hypoperfusion secondary to the prolonged this hypoxemia. So now we are going to discuss 2 cases. So we are going to diagnose end of this slide. A 1.5 kg male delivered by vaginal delivery at 33 weeks of gestation age with upgar of 7 and 8, 1 and 5 minutes. The infant is cyanotic, required CPAP immediately after delivery. He has subcostal contraction, grunting, nasal flaring, auscultation revealed, decreased air entry. Temperature is 98.2 degree Fahrenheit. Pulse is 175 per minute, respiratory is 70 per minute. FiO2 requirement will be 0.4. So what is your diagnosis? What is your diagnosis? Preterm, male baby? Yes. Answer will be immediately after birth? Yes. Your diagnosis will be respiratory distress syndrome. This is the commonest cause for respiratory distress in the preterm baby. So what are the common risk factors? Male sex, preterm. Yeah, we have maternal diabetes, perinatal asphyxia, multiple gestation age. What are the risk factors? Will decrease the risk of ODS, antenatal steroid, and PRY. Respiratory distress syndrome due to deficiency of surfactants. The clinical presentation within first few hours of life, immediately after delivery, marked respiratory distress, tachypnea, grunting, suprasternal contraction, cyanosis, the requirement of more than 40%. The radiological features: microatexia, low volume lung, diffuse white granular infiltration. The pulmonary edema playing central role in the RDS, it contribute development of air bronchopneumonia, and the end stage whiteout lung. So ground glass appearance, this will be air bronchogram, whiteout lung. This will be ground glass appearance, so whiteout lung. This will be air. Case number 2. A 3.2 kg female infant delivered by cesarean section at 38 weeks of gestation without a trial of labor. Her Apgar score will be fine. She developed tachypnea and subclassical contraction with nasal flaring at 1 hour of life. Temperature will be normal. Pulse rate will be 165 per minute. Respiratory rate 74 per minute. Tachypnea, along with increased work of breathing. Other physical examination will be normal. She required supplement of O2 by nasal cannula. FiO2 0.3 for 36 hours. Then she weaned to room air. Then after 36 hours, the respiratory rate is 42. No increase of breathing. What is your diagnosis? The term baby without trial of labor. Yes. Transient tachypnea of newborn. Also known as wet lung or type 2 ODS. It's a self-limiting disease. Usually incidence will be 11,000 live births. More common in male, late preterm, and term infants. Risk factors: cesarean section before onset of labor, infant with perinatal asphyxia, maternal complication like asthma, diabetic mellitus, amenorrhea during the labor. Respiratory mortality in elective cesarean section inversely related to the gestation age. Clinical presentation of BPN immediately after birth, onset will be immediately after birth. Maximum severity at birth and improves gradually. Person with tachypnea, grunting, nasal flaring, And the ABG shows respiratory acidosis and mild to moderate hypoxia. Radiological feature, hyperinflated lungs. Typical feature will be perichylar sticky due to the dilatation of lymphatics. Fluid in the minor fissure, rarely pleural effusion and mild cardiomyopathy. Treatment, benign and self-limiting. So we should support with oxygen therapy. So next we are moving into management part of neonatal respiratory distress. Investigation. Based on your appropriate history and clinical examination, you should order appropriate investigation like chest X-ray, septic screening, blood culture. Specific investigation like CT thorax or lung anomalies, congenital lung anomalies. Echocardiography for congenital heart disease or persistent pulmonary hypertension. So main treatment will be supportive therapy, respiratory support, and we should monitor for management of complications. And there are some specific therapy. So what are the supportive therapy we are going to give? You can give maintain normal thermo-neutral environment, and we should give intravenous fluid, and we should monitor the vital parameters. So what is this one? This is a radiant warmer. What is this one? Incubator. So respiratory support depends upon the gestation of the infant, hemodynamic stability, severity, and complication. What is the objective of this respiratory support? To ensure adequate oxygen and ventilation, to decrease the work of breathing. So we should give supplemented oxygen. So TTN or mild RES, we should give O2 by head box or nasal cannula. CPAP we will use moderate respiratory distress. If the severity of scoring more than 4, we can give CPAP. We have the CPAP machines. So lead term with TTN or pneumonia, they have severe. If the score more than 4, we can give CPAP. O2 by CPAP. Then mechanical ventilation. Severe. So more than impending failure. Infant who fails to maintain oxygen ventilation at CPAP, we are switch over to the mechanical ventilation. Then advanced therapy for persistent pulmonary hypertension, inhaled nitric oxide therapy. Then the third, after the respiratory support, third will be monitoring the complication. So we should monitor any worsening of the distress, features of pulmonary persistent pulmonary hypertension, AKI, complication due to mechanical ventilation, and hemodynamic instability. If any complication will develop, we should treat cardiac. And specific therapy for respiratory distress syndrome due to surfactant deficiency, so we should give surfactant therapy, surfactant replacement therapy. Commonly, we are using it in tube technique. Intubate, give us surfactant, extubate, put him on CPAP. This is the common technique we are using, in tube technique. Antibiotic for sepsis or pneumonia, surgical resection for lung malformation. Have any doubts? Thank you.